Boston's winter was harsher than usual. From the window of the hospital room, Emily Grant looked over the snow-covered city. It had been a long surgery, 8 hours of intense work, but her patient's condition was stable. Emily was exhausted. She had worked tirelessly to become one of the most skilled cardiac surgeons at St. Mary Memorial Hospital. Yet, despite all her hard work, she often felt overlooked, especially by her family. Her mother, Carol, had called earlier to remind her about the family gathering for her birthday. Emily sighed, realizing she had completely forgotten. The truth was, she wasn't eager to go. Growing up in a wealthy family in Boston, Emily had always felt out of place. While her parents, Robert and Carol, cherished art and fashion, Emily's passion for medicine was always undervalued. Her sister, Lily, was their pride, successful, beautiful, and the focus of all their attention. Emily, on the other hand, had always felt like she could never measure up. But there was one person who had always supported her, her maternal grandmother, Grace. A former nurse, Grace had been Emily's true anchor. She had encouraged Emily's dreams of becoming a doctor, always telling her that she had a gift. Before leaving the hospital, Emily checked a missed call from the senior care facility where her grandmother lived. Grace's condition had been unstable recently. Emily called the facility, concerned, and was told that Grace had been looking forward to her visit and had a special gift for her. Emily smiled softly, feeling some comfort in knowing her grandmother was thinking of her. As she drove toward the senior care facility, Emily's thoughts lingered on the upcoming birthday party. Her parents would undoubtedly focus on Lily's latest achievements, and Emily could already imagine her mother's disapproving comments about her financial situation. She had long since moved out and was financially independent, but her parents' constant reminders about how much they had invested in her were tiresome. When Emily arrived at the senior care facility, Grace greeted her with a warm, weak smile. "Come in, my precious granddaughter." Grace handed her a small box. "This is for you," she said, "but don't open it now. Open it when the time is right. It will help you understand the true meaning of family." Emily nodded, intrigued but not fully understanding. After leaving Grace's room, Emily headed to her parents' house. She arrived to a cold reception, and the atmosphere in the house was as stiff as she had anticipated. Carol and Robert barely acknowledged her arrival. Lily was preoccupied with her phone. There was no birthday cake or presents, only a white envelope placed on the table in front of Emily. Carol's voice broke the silence. "Here's proof that you've become an adult now. Open it." Inside the envelope was an official document titled Family Relationship Termination Notice. Emily's eyes widened in shock. Her parents had prepared a legal document that formally severed their relationship with her. The document outlined repayment for the costs of her upbringing and education, totaling $450,000. "This is insane," Emily whispered, looking up at her parents. "What is this?" Carol smiled coldly. "From today on, you're no longer part of our family. You can afford this. You're a doctor now." Robert smirked as he sipped his wine. "You made us spend a fortune raising you. Now it's time to pay up." Lily remained silent, but her smug expression made it clear that she was content with the situation. As Emily read through the document, she felt a sense of disbelief. Everything she had feared about her family's treatment of her had been true. The sense of alienation she had felt her whole life now had an official seal on it. She stood up quietly, the weight of everything crashing down on her. "I thought we were family," she said softly, before folding the document and placing it in her bag. "But I see now that we were never really family. This was just a business relationship." Without another word, she left the house, her parents' voices trailing behind her, but her heart remained calm. It was time to leave the toxicity behind. She drove to Grace's senior care facility, knowing she needed to be with someone who truly cared for her. When she arrived, she found her grandmother had been taken to the hospital due to a stroke. Emily rushed to Boston General, but despite the severity of the situation, she kept her professional composure. The doctors had started treatment, but Grace's condition was critical. Emily sat by her grandmother's side, holding her hand. "Grandma, please don't leave me," she whispered. Grace smiled weakly. "You're not alone," she said with a soft cough. "Remember, true family is about love, not blood. The love we share, that's what makes us family." 3 days later, Emily received the news that Grace had passed away peacefully. Emily was devastated, but she knew her grandmother's wisdom would live on. She spent the following days planning Grace's funeral, but as she did, something changed inside her. She found strength in Grace's teachings and began to understand the true meaning of family. At the funeral, Emily's parents and sister showed up, but they seemed more focused on the inheritance than on mourning Grace's passing. Elizabeth, her grandmother's lawyer, handed Emily the official will. Emily learned that Grace had left her everything: her inheritance, her assets, and a charitable foundation for heart patients. When she saw her parents after the funeral, they asked about the will, their faces showing only greed. But Emily was no longer the same. She handed them the documents and calmly explained how her grandmother had already paid for everything they'd demanded of her. Emily had finally realized that her true family had always been Grace. Emily spent the following months focusing on her work and her grandmother's foundation. With the inheritance, she established the Martha Williams Heart Medical Center, helping those who couldn't afford medical treatment. She gave back to the community, healing not just patients but herself as well. Over time, her parents' financial troubles worsened, and they came to her for help. Emily, still conflicted, decided to offer a helping hand, but only on her own terms. She paid for her mother's surgery, but insisted they sign a new family contract, one that required them to acknowledge the pain they had caused her and apologize for their actions. Years later, after her parents' bankruptcy and Vanessa's career shift, Emily's life had transformed. The Monroe family, once wealthy and arrogant, was now humbled by their struggles. Emily had built a true family, one based on love, respect, and forgiveness. The Martha Williams Heart Medical Center became a beacon of hope for many, and Elizabeth stood strong as its head. Her family, though imperfect, had learned to acknowledge their mistakes. The scars of the past were healing, and Emily had finally found her path to happiness, knowing that family is not about blood but about love and forgiveness.